And we're live at eTourism Summit, wrapping up our third week of the virtual 21 days of amazing content focused on winning in 2021. And as you all, just want to thank you all for joining us and participating in this year's event. It's been an amazing journey of kind of developing a marketing plan for 2021, starting with Sarah Quinlan and the macroeconomics, getting our situation analysis, talking strategy, talking all the way through all the issues and conversations that we would normally have at a live e-tourism event. But this 21 days is all virtual, although we will have 2 days live and in person, November 9th and 10th at Universal Orlando, which will be great to actually see some people face to face. Although we will be masked and socially distanced and washing our hands a lot, it will be great to have everybody back. But in the tradition of eTourism Summit, bringing together the thought leaders in our industry, I'm really excited about our panel today. And I'm really excited about our sponsorship that we have today. Before we go into our presentation, I wanted to couple little key reminders. One, we've got the chat available and Q&A. Any questions that you all have, please feel free to ask our panelists. They've got some great information. And I'd also like to ask you to make sure to register for the Flashback Friday. It's just a fun social gathering this afternoon at 3 o'clock when we can all talk to each other and see each other's faces. And I know, Amrita, you've been doing a lot of these types of just gatherings. It's not a presentation. It's not it's not any work, but it's an opportunity just to see our peers from around the country and around the world and share stories and catch up. So we encourage you all to register for Flashback Friday this afternoon at 3 o'clock. With that, Amrita, I really want to thank you and CrowdRiff for sponsoring today's session. And before I hand it over to you, I just wanted to acknowledge how I think that CrowdRiff, and I congratulate you and Dan and your entire team on that amazing local hood product that you have put together. I think it's an amazing example of being on the exact point of what communities need at the time when they really needed it. So congratulations to you and your team, and thank you again to you and everybody at CrowdRiff for sponsoring and being such long, loyal partners of eTourism Summit. So I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Will. And I wish we were all in a hotel in San Francisco right now, like we're so used to. Definitely miss seeing you all face to face, and have really, I think this year has really brought home how much we actually can accomplish as a tourism industry because of the strong connections we have. So really happy to be here on behalf of CrowdRiff. And I'm not really going to do too much of a promo for us. I think we have lots of wonderful friends who are attending this webinar. I've really been grateful for our broader community, whether you're a customer or not. I think people have really reached out to help each other, which has been really heartwarming. And I think this year has really brought home for us, the topic that we're talking about today, which is that people just want to know what they can go out and do. People are dying to get out and travel still. They want to know that they can do it safely. And I think visuals are such an important tool for every tourism brand to use to really get people doing things safely, whether it's locally in your destination or traveling regionally or across the country. So really excited to have a wonderful lineup of people here. I think most of them don't need any introduction, but I will let each person introduce themselves. Brian, do you want to jump in first?
Absolutely. I'm Brian. I'm with 26 Digital. I'm the Director of Education and Strategy. We're a Pierre, Michigan company. I've been into e-tourism for many, many, many years. So hopefully people know me by now, but I'm sure we've got some newbies on the web broadcast. This is fun. Not quite as fun as roaming the, lobby and taking in the evening events, but I think we're going to have a great session today.
Awesome. So happy to have you on here. Love the 2020 beard. Looks great.
COVID beard.
Exactly. Eliza, I'd love for you to introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Eliza Voss. I'm the Director of Marketing at the Aspen Chamber Resort Association in Aspen, Colorado. And we are a hybrid DMO and traditional Chamber of Commerce, and look forward to showing how we kind of used some existing tools to carry us through this most unusual summer.
Absolutely. And I imagine you're gearing up for your busy winter season too. Yeah. So looking forward to hearing more about that. And then last but certainly not least, Jake. Jake is a good friend in the Crowdrift community. He joins our community calls very religiously, which I appreciate, and super excited, Jake, for you to share more about yourself.
Yeah, so hi everyone. My name is Jake Brown. I'm the content manager at Visit South Bend, Mishawaka in northern Indiana, home to the University of Notre Dame, more recently home to a presidential nominee and a Supreme Court nominee. So the world really revolves around South Bend these days. But yeah, super excited to be here. It's my third eTourism Summit, and pumped to show kind of what we've been up to during COVID.
Awesome. Great. So the way we're going to run the next little while is each panelist is going to give a short presentation about their knowledge and experience around using visuals. I definitely encourage people to, first of all, just say hello in the chat. We love knowing who's out there watching. So Wes, we see you, and anyone else who's on, please say hello. Also, feel free to ask a question. I'm going to be keeping an eye on the Q&A, and depending on the question, we may hold them till the end, so we make sure we get everyone to be able to give their presentation without any rush. But I know it's a great topic. I love the examples that we've got. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Brian and let you kick things off.
All right, I get to kick things off, and I got some gifts. I couldn't let the opportunity to go without being in person, so I just went full-on gift style here today. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. So hopefully y'all can see my screen okay. Do pictures really paint 1,000 words? And let's get started. All right, the short answer is yes. So this is actually the easiest presentation I've ever had, so I'm going to turn it back to Amrita, and we can continue on with the rest of the presentation. Pictures are worth 1,000 words, all right? We know this, all right? For many, many years now, and in many presentations along the way, we've always seen stats that said, ad performance especially is 90% the images or the videos that you use and how compelling that those can be. I also think targeting has a little bit to do with that ad performance as well. But we've always been really good at this stuff because images are super, super important. People remember only 10% of the information 3 days after they hear it or read it on average. But if you add a picture, 65%, all right? So that's a big deal. Consumers are significantly likely to think favorably of ads that emphasize good photography over ads that are all text-driven, right? These are all basic things that we deal with all the time. Nearly 2/3 of people say they're visual learners as well. In the tourism space, images are absolutely key. And I remember at my time at the Fargo-Moorhead CVB, I loved the days where I got to be a tourist in my own town and grab the cameras, grab the video cameras, and just go explore and take photos and have all types of new assets available to us. We're all writing blogs. We're all writing articles. We're doing all these different things. Images matter in all of this stuff. In fact, way more than the words do. The words that we write have become less and less and less and less over the years, right? Articles with relevant images get 94% more views. I mean, one of the strategies that we use all the time at 26 Digital is user-generated content, a lot of times captured from Crowdrift, to really spruce up and give life to the articles that we write. It's just way more impactful when we actually start using photography and video in the things that we do. Now, impact of images. Images on Facebook get 20% more engagement than videos, believe that, and 352% more engagement than just sharing that link. So if you're struggling in any way, trying to get some of that organic reach, hopefully you jumped into the paid game by now. But if your organic reach kind of blows, try that video, try that photo, and see if you can start moving the needle a little bit with what's going on there. We all know these things. This is all pretty straightforward stuff. Where it starts to get interesting is when we can take some of these components and start combining them. Text only, meh engagement. When we start using text and photo, we can expect 14% increases in engagement, 20% when we take text and video, 48% when we start taking our text, our photo, and our video, putting it all together, and then engagement just rises as we become more multimedia oriented through the content that we write, all right? So compile things, bring things together, and it can tell a really impactful story to the people online. It's kind of a big deal. It's a really, really big deal that we're showcasing these assets. And, historically, CVBs have always been really, really good at it. I ran across during my research and stuff during this speech. I just want to share some of this with you, just so you can think about it and how you can do better on like Facebook and Twitter. With a picture, you're going to see 2.3 times more engagement. All right. Just on Facebook, your tweets are going to receive 150% more retweets when you're using images. On Instagram, all right, blue images perform better on Instagram. Why? I don't freaking know, but it does. And that's what the data says. Instagram images with one dominant color also get more likes. So if you're struggling, take some of these tips and plug that into your content as you're going around. Think through the process, really is what I'm saying. And, pay attention to data, because data will give us important clues as we're moving around. On Pinterest, I'm a huge fan of Pinterest. I think just over the last maybe year or so, 26 Digital has gone really aggressively in on a lot of the things that we're doing on Pinterest. If you're active, red and orange images on Pinterest are getting more engagement, more repins, and also the more color, the better are going to stand out in those feeds as well. So be colorful, go and saturate and get those things going. This is one piece of information that actually really did jump out at me, though, is that images with faces get fewer repins, all right? Images with faces get 23% less repins than those with faces. I always thought it was just children, all right, or babies. Baby photos always perform very, very poorly whenever we would use those. So, but it's just overall faces. So at the end of the day, stop showing those faces and start putting those users in the experience. Show them, kind of give them that first person point of view in the things that you're trying to show off and, describe in your destination. Typically, CVBs have always felt pretty darn good about their visual assets, all right? We've hired professional photographers. We've been able to curate hashtags. We've been able to leverage all the best tools out there to make sure that we have assets to be able to plug into everything that we're doing. We've always been pretty confident about it. It's never really been that big of a problem. Like this example from Visit Aspen, boom, you want to go shopping? Beautiful photos, right? Go do a girls' day out. Go do some great shopping in Aspen, downtown square. It's going to be a great, great time. Fantastic, beautiful, beautiful photos. South Bend, look at this. Game day, amazing shots. These are wow factor types of images that we can really leverage to showcase the visitor experience. We've got probably hard drives full of images like this that we've collected over the years that we've been using and reusing and plugging into print materials and online promotions. It really hasn't been that hard. Good stuff when we can show that off. Additionally, just that nighttime nightlife experience has been one of those things that we've been able to plug in and show off through all of our visuals and say, gosh darn it, I'd like to be sitting around that table with a bunch of e-tourism peeps hanging out, talking about the day and talking about the upcoming trends and things like that. But then, things kind of started to change in our world. And I tell you what, it came at us really, really fast. I mean, I'm not sure if anybody really saw it coming. This COVID thing really forced all of us to really pump the brake. I mean, this was overnight. I distinctly remember, Friday the 13th, March 13th, leaving the office early. And I never thought that I would say, to the staff at 26 Digital to, hey, on your way home, make sure that you stop and pick up some more pet food. Make sure you go and get some bread, go and get some chips. Like the whole world just kind of flipped upside down on that day. And the same is true for the content that we had to start promoting. We couldn't rely on the war chest that we were able to use all these years. It was like starting from a blank slate for a lot of us. And I tell you what, some of the early ad campaigns that we were running, they were really tough because we just didn't have assets that resonated with what we were trying to do. This is probably the number one word that came to mind when everything kind of hit the fan. It was a giant fudge went across the world when we realized that this was not just going to be a 2-week thing. This is going to be multi-month. And who would know that we would still be in this situation, halfway through October and moving through the year. It's something we could totally not plan for. So when we go back to the creative that we actually have and we've been using for years to promote our destinations, things started to get a little vile on the internet. People would call us out for any photo that we had without masks. I mean, we ran campaigns and be like, oh, geez, man, we didn't even think about that. We got this photo hanging out here of two people within 2 feet of each other. That didn't work very well. In this example here from Concord, well, obviously, we've got, no masks. So this photo is not acceptable for use during this COVID era that we're in. And we can't even use the fire. we couldn't even feature the fire in this image because of what was going on in Concord, California. Our client actually requested, it's like, hey, we love that photo. It's a beautiful photo, but let's not use that photo because the fire is in that photo. And we've been having a hell of a time with all of that. So it's not even just COVID. It's just all of these weird things that have been going on. We've got the fires. We've got the different protests and different things. We've got this election going on. Everything has just been like cranked to 12 this year from every single direction. Similarly with Visit South Bend, I mean, I bet we're not going to be seeing many of these photos for a while. I mean, honestly, this will strike fear into the minds of people when they see photos like this, right? No masks, no social distancing. We as CVBs and DMOs really need to be sensitive about the current environment and how we can convey kind of that safety factor to our visitors. Here's one of my favorites. Who thought donuts could like bring out vitriol in people, right? Here we go. We've all seen probably comments like this. Linda, good old Linda comes in and she's like, maskless, what's going on? And then Linda starts a conversation on our feed and she's saying, just said that it's the advertising, thought we might see it and fix things so people feel safe coming, just saying, quote unquote, right? So who knew? Even like an innocent donut picture could bring out the worst in all of us. And social media marketers are sitting back saying, yeah, thanks, Linda. Thanks a lot for that wonderful comment. You have a wonderful day too. So, it all comes down to this. Every single piece of content that we're creating, we've got to mask up. We've got to be sensitive to the things that are happening on the ground in our destination, in our county, in our state. Sensitivity is really, really key right now with all of this stuff. And it's been a really rocky ride. It's been changing. We'd think we're coming out of the woods on one thing and we would get a left hook out of the other side and we'd have to recalibrate and change. I mean, I don't know how many times we had to stop, pause, rework campaigns throughout the last 5-6 months, just due to changing conditions on the ground. And it wasn't even, a statewide or a national influence. It was stuff that was happening, within a certain area of town or within a particular county. It's been an absolutely bizarre year. The travel experience has 100% changed. And every way that we talk about it and we describe it has to change right along with it. It does break my heart a little bit for CVPs that I'm seeing that are just doing the same old thing, right? They're just like, well, we're just going to keep going. And they're out there. There's also ones that break my heart even more, the ones that have just gone dark because they don't have the assets or they don't have the means to be able to accurately communicate the current visitor experience. So I think it's really, really key that you're getting out there and you're gaining assets that you can use to communicate safety, because strangely enough, I mean, this is the role of CVBs during this time. We've got to kind of pet the head of our visitors and say, you know what, it's going to be okay. You're safe. You can come here. Here are the different things that we've done to make sure that you're safe. All right. And I was not going to let COVID, take away my opportunity to share a cat gift. So there's my one token cat gift that I get in every single one of my presentations. And you're welcome for that. I'm really excited to have the two guests that we have on here. Jake and Eliza have done some great things in their destinations to truly lead the way. All right. They were some of the first people that came out with a plan and pivoted really, really aggressively right out of the gate to start appealing to those sensitivities of travelers today. All right. And just showing the proper visitor experience, talking about why you're safe when you come here. Here are the steps that we have done. And I just absolutely love both of these case studies that we're going to have today, because it's now more important than ever to showcase that actual visitor experience. I just saw some posts the other day on social media where, people used a fancy, it looked like it came from an old archive, where people called it out in the comments. People are very, very vocal with what they see and what they, and sharing their contribution or their thoughts on things. In case you noticed that, right? You got to be really sensitive to everything. All right. So I've got Aspen and South Bend with their stories coming up right here. And I hope that it just motivates everybody who's on the webinar today to just take action. Stop kind of waiting for this thing to pass, because, everything that we're reading at 26 Digital is really indicating that this might be around for a while. And this is something that we have to be really, really sensitive to. So I think it's time for a little bit of story time and to get our visitors feeling a little bit better about everything with all of this. So let's turn it back over and hear the stories from, first we're going to hear from Aspen, and then we're going to hear from South Bend, and then we'll do a little bit of Q&A just to kind of hear how they did it. I think it's really what's the most valuable to the people on the webinar today.
Thanks, Brian. I will take it over and we'll show a little video. Let me screen share. And basically, we, like everybody else, paused all media. But one thing we had developed as part of our sustainable and responsible travel initiatives was this how-to campaign. And this was a campaign that existed pre-COVID. And I'll show you, our first video will show you what it looked like pre-COVID. So if Becca can roll that, that would be great.
How to Aspen carrying your skis. If you want to at least look like you know what you're doing, you need to start with learning to carry your skis correctly. Not quite. Nope. If you're waiting in line, keep your skis out of the way so you don't hit anyone around you. And once you're out away from crowds, just keep both skis together and prop them up with your shoulder, like so. Hit the slopes and not the people around you.
Thanks. So that is an example of kind of our cheeky and fun way. We have a whole series of how-to videos and content that was existing pre-COVID. Then COVID hit and we thought, how can we pivot this something that we already have in the queue to kind of fit this new normal? So we kicked off How to Aspen in a COVID-19 World. And I will just let the audience know that we kicked this off with the intention of kind of showing how Aspen was a safe destination. So the idea behind it was kind of convincing people to come, because as we can all take a little flashback to April and May, we really had no idea how people were going to react. Then we saw in June kind of this pent up demand was pretty real and people started showing up. So we actually kind of re-recorded the beginning to indicate that this is actually how you need to behave if you are going to come here. So, you know, there were some pivots in the pivot, if you will. Initially concepted to prove that it was going to be okay to come here, and then kind of switched it to, you know, if you are going to come here, this is how you're expected to behave.
Aspen in a COVID-19 world. We look forward to welcoming you to Aspen, so long as you can take these precautions to care for our small community so that we can stay safe and open. Before traveling, we ask all visitors to ensure they are symptom-free for at least 10 days prior to coming to our community. Within the city of Aspen, face coverings are required in businesses, public buildings, and in outdoor mandatory mask zones. Help us prevent the spread and keep Aspen open by practicing these 5 commitments of containment. I will maintain 6 feet of distance from anyone not in my household. I will wash my hands often. I will cover my face in public. I will stay home when I am sick. I will seek testing immediately and self-report if I experience symptoms. Thanks for choosing our destination. Together, we can help prevent the spread and keep Aspen open. For more resources, head to aspenchamber.org and download our full visitor resource guide.
Thanks, Becca. So that 60-second version has been played 278,000 times and viewed to the 50% mark. We have a 30-second version and a 15-second version, which we used on connected TV. This was all through a campaign with 26 Digital and a couple more. So played just over 700,000 times and viewed to completion. 286, and the view rate was pretty high. I think Brian had mentioned that the, you know, standard COVID view rate was about in the 20s. So we were really pleased with the view rate. But I will note that the click-through was not as great as we had hoped, and we kind of think that indicates that you're either getting the information you want from the video in that platform, so you don't need to come and get more. And also that just the nature that once people have understood how how seriously you're going to take visiting Aspen with the COVID restrictions in place, you don't need to visit more of the website. But we are going to look at opportunities to cross-link a little bit more so we can increase that click-through. So that video that I just shared was the general awareness video. We also did a version that was specific to dining, one for outdoor rec, one for shopping, and one for hotels. And we are planning to kind of evolve those for the winter campaign. So dining is going to be a little bit different this winter as well. So we'll reshoot outdoor dining in winter video. Outdoor rec is going to be more downhill skiing than fly fishing and hiking. So that's going to be adapted as well. And then this is how we distributed it. It was our visitor resource guide. And I can put the link to that digital version in the chat when I'm finished. But we created this asset for all of our stakeholders. So that has public health information, the hotline they can call if they are sick when they get here. It has all of the videos in those sections, as well as the text to support that. We have a chat bot on our website. And at the beginning of COVID, we had her first question start with, are you looking for COVID specific travel information? And she serves up the resource guide. And so all of our stakeholders were using it in their pre-arrival communications as well. And we created it as a downloadable PDF. So if they wanted to do it that way or just link to the digital version, they had both options. And we will, again, evolve this for winter as well. And something we should note is that every media landing page that we put out had a link back to this as well in a banner feature at the top of the website. So anything that paid media was landing on also had this linked up. And I guess why video? And I think the end of the story is that really our businesses were pretty clear from the beginning that even if they got the ability from public health to reopen, it wasn't going to be worth their while if our community was not open to visitation. So while public health was kind of maxed out and in the weeds and creating all of these super formal documents, we really felt like we needed to kind of show and not tell what the visitor should expect and how they would be expected to behave once they got here, and kind of take the public health governmental speak into the real world. So that was the video. And really, at the end of the day, visitors in a pandemic want the same things as a visitor does in pre-COVID. They want to know what to expect upon arrival into the destination, and kind of live like a local while they're visiting. So we kind of wanted to take that guesswork out of it. We've likened it to, when you travel abroad, you find out what the tipping customs are, and you do all that legwork in advance. And we want to kind of get to that new normal with visitation during COVID. Like, go ahead and look up what the local restrictions are so you can assimilate as best as you can into the community that you're visiting. So we are a hybrid chamber of commerce and destination marketing organization. So we really were uniquely positioned to kind of communicate both to the stakeholders what was required as well as the visitors. And I feel like we really have gotten, here's a couple of good testimonials from our members, but I think that coming out, owning the fact of the matter that we were in a COVID world and really trying to thread that needle between keeping the community safe as well as reopening the economy, we kind of rose to the occasion for both the members, the business community, and then the visitors. So I think one outcome we've come to realize is that, maybe nobody really knew what was going to happen when COVID hit. And while we might not be able to kind of reuse this if the pandemic goes away, I think it gives us a toolkit for going forward. How can we react when there is, major disruption in our industry, is kind of utilizing existing campaigns and pivoting them for the current atmosphere that we're in. And that's been our biggest takeaway. And I think what we will learn throughout all of this. I mean, back in March, we were running around like chickens with our heads cut off, trying to figure out what it was that we were going to do to come through this. And hopefully we're not going to have another pandemic anytime soon. But when this one closes out, I think one of our learnings from just a crisis communication standpoint is, stop, make sure the work that you're doing is true to your core mission, and then pivot it for the existing atmosphere climate. So I'm happy to take any questions.
That was great, Eliza. I think there were a lot of key themes here that I think other people can really learn from. And we will have questions. If any are coming in now, feel free to post them. We can also take some at the end. I know I've got a few questions coming out of your talk, so definitely we'll come back to you at the top of the hour as well. Next, we are going to hear from Jake from Visit South Bend. So Jake, I will just throw this over to you. And again, reminding everyone to please say hello in the chat or post any questions.
Awesome. Thanks, Amrita. So yeah, this is me. I already introduced myself, Jake Brown, Content Manager at Visit South Bend, Mishawaka. And I'm just going to kind of walk everyone through a process we went through in the late spring, early summer to collect the digital assets we needed to tell the story we needed in terms of masking up here locally. And we did that partially or mostly through collecting UGC. So just to sort of set the timeline here, I know everyone's coronavirus timeline is so different every destination. On May 3rd, a local mask order went into effect. We were one of the first counties in the state of Indiana to have a mask order. So it sort of set us apart and created some challenges because it wasn't widely accepted yet, at least here. So in early to mid-June, we got into some conversations with our local health department. Just like Eliza, we're a hybrid chamber destination marketing organization, and we're county-based. So we wanted to talk with the health department about how we could help them sort of message the mask order and further than just saying, you got to wear it. We wanted to find another way to sort of work that message into locals. And they had this tagline here below on the bottom part of the slide that we sort of worked with. In early July 1, they extended that mask order locally into September. So at that point, obviously, we know the masks are here to stay. And then you can see at the end here, July 27th, the statewide mandate finally went into place. So that's kind of the timeline we were working with. So like in everything we do, we wanted to tell an authentic destination story. And we realized this came with some challenges / opportunities as we wanted to continue marketing, because as the mask orders were coming into place, travel was opening up. So we know visitors are going to be coming. We know our locals are going to be getting out and about. We need to make sure that's all happening responsibly. So the challenges here, amplifying mass messaging to locals, making sure they know that it's being required in public spaces, setting expectations for potential visitors. We're obviously opening up to visitation at this time. We're ready to get people back in our hotels, attractions, all of that, but they got to be able to do it safely. And then we also want to reassure travelers, right? We need to make sure that our businesses and attractions are showing that they're doing things the right way, wearing masks themselves, and for the visitors that are concerned about safety, we need to reassure them. So we can message that all we want, right? But if you don't have the visuals to go with it, it doesn't really add up for people. So the first step we took was to set up some photo shoots. Our in-house creative specialist, Allie, moved pretty quickly to get some visuals through, you can see here in the couple of our local museums, 3 of our local museums. One of the photo shoots was arranged by us. And then in the other 2, we just kind of went to the museums, which were requiring masks, and had all the waiver and everything you needed so we could get the permission to use the photos, all that good stuff. And then on my end, I can manage CrowdRiff for us and sort of our UGC program. So I was immediately thinking, okay, I got to get on Instagram and find UGC. Well, when I started looking, I realized there isn't any, or people weren't taking those photos proactively yet. So I thought the best thing we could do is set up a contest to sort of drive some interest in taking mass photos and give some things away in the process. So that's where we went. So The contest, I would call it kind of a micro campaign. It ran for quite a while, but we didn't put a ton of budget behind it. Obviously, all of us have different budget constraints these days. So the basics of this were create a landing page that you can see here in the right hand part of the slide, hero image showing mass. We embedded a crowd riff gallery there so we could take those entries, flow them into the gallery, and people could see A, people are entering, and B, this is people out at our attractions, out at our businesses in their mask. It's not a big deal, and we can encourage everyone to do it. But down farther on this landing page, which I'll drop in the chat later, we use CrowdRiff's uploader. I'm reading collector feature to get people to upload photos directly. We also encourage them to tag us on social media with our handle. We kicked around the idea of doing a hashtag, but there were some other local organizations that were introducing mask hashtags already, and we didn't want to muddy the waters, and we didn't want to co-opt one, so we stayed away from the hashtag. And then you can't have a contest if you're not giving some stuff away. So we took some budget and got some gift cards and attraction passes, and we also had some partners that were willing to donate those. So like I said, it's pretty lean budget-wise. I didn't really want to burn through my social budget trying to do this contest. So we kept it pretty lean. I spent $125 on gift cards. Like I said, others were donated. One restaurant that we don't even really partner with that much donated $100 worth of gift cards kind of out of the blue. So it was good to see some of that, people getting behind it that way. And I budgeted a whole $100 for social promotion. And as you'll see later, I didn't even spend it all because we were able to leverage some other things. So the contest did a mini launch in early July. So based on that timeline, this contest launched before the statewide order, which put us in kind of an interesting position, but we needed even people 1 or 2 counties over to know that if you're coming into St. Joseph County, you will be required or asked to wear a mask when you're here. Of course, we cross-promoted this on all of our primary social media platforms. We reached out to local partners with large social media reach and asked them to repost it as well. A lot of the partners that were donating gift cards and passes were willing to do that. And then we named a winner every week. And I either offered them something out of our stockpile of gift cards, or I would just give them whatever they wanted because I was so thrilled that people were participating. So the contest ran for a couple weeks, and then the statewide order came down finally, and we wanted to use that opportunity to double down on the contest and almost sort of pretended like it hadn't been running for 2 weeks already and just re-announced it, right? So we relaunched the contest to coincide with the statewide mask mandate, and we utilized, some early entry photos to show that people were already doing this. And then our ongoing social promotion from there on always included recent entries or past winners. In one case, the woman with the green mask, I just texted her, that's my sister, and I told her, please upload something that I could use. So sometimes that's what you have to resort to get things started. So when we relaunched the contest on July 27th, I didn't want to go back into my social budget, which I had already used pretty much for the early first couple weeks. So I decided to send out a press release to go with the contest to take advantage of the newsworthiness of the statewide mandate. A couple local television stations picked that up. The one here on the slide, they just took the press release and mentioned it on the air and put it on their website. Another one followed up the next day. I did an on-camera interview and facilitated some other interviews with business owners who all were very positive, which was great. So that kind of leads me into my next point. It was maybe the first positive piece of media we had throughout the pandemic. I think most people can relate to this. If you were doing media during the early days of the pandemic, it was a doom and gloom story about the beating our industry is taking, which is totally understandable, but this was a way for us to get our name back out there in a positive light, which was great for us. And then with the couple media hits, we did see a push of more entries over the next couple weeks, which was also great because like I said, I didn't want to get back into my social spend. So just to kind of wrap it up, like I said, it was kind of a micro campaign. It did end up running for about 6 weeks, but after the earned media piece of this, that was about a month. The last 2 weeks were really slow. And I was worried about diminishing returns on social, so I didn't want to hammer it again on social, so I just kind of left it alone. It generated about 50 entries. I still don't know exactly what to make of that number. Obviously, I wish it would have been more, but my expectations were pretty low without getting into the local politics of all of this. We have some areas that are really pro-mask, and we have some areas that are really anti-mask. So it was a lot to ask of people to take photos and upload them and do all that. Like I said, I didn't even use the whole $100 of my social budget. I did 2 boosted Facebook posts to a local audience and spent a total of $80. It reached almost 16,000 people, and I really was pleased with the 15.5% engagement rate on Facebook. The engagement rate can be pretty fleeting on Facebook, and just the fact alone that we were able to get this many people to see it and interact with it, even if I only got 1 entry, it would have been worth it just to get the mass message out there in a different way. We felt like it was the right thing to do. And from July 10 to August 17th, it was the 4th most popular landing page on our website, which it was competing with, by this time we had turned on a pretty significant paid media spend as travel was opening back up. And this was not included in any of that. It was just kind of running on its own. So I felt pretty good about where that shook out in terms of the content on our website. So just to put kind of a fine point on it, the entries are pretty solid. I would say about 75% of those entries were usable. You get some people that are kind of making fun of you for running a contest and uploading photos for you to see. So we can't use all of them, but it set us up for, having the photos we needed, showing a user-generated experience as opposed to a photo shoot experience, which is really important to us. And we've used some of these assets in, of course, future Facebook posts, future social posts, and even some paid advertising. So pretty successful small campaign for us. So that's us.
Amazing. Thank you, Jake. That was really fantastic. And I know I've sort of heard about this, of course, just through the community, but really good to see the numbers. And also, I know you were asking, is 50 a good number or not? And I just come back to, 50 great images, even 20, 30 great images for about $100 that you spend sort of out of your budget. To me, that's an amazing success. And I think the quality of a lot of the images that you were showing here really show people kind of just enjoying your community. They happen to have masks on. It really is very friendly type of content that I think you'll be able to use for a while. So really well done. And I know we've had a lot of people ask questions about running contests in general. So I know a lot of people are going to get a lot from your talk in terms of the tactics and the nitty gritty and how all that worked. So I want to make sure that people do have a chance to ask questions. Please go ahead and post your questions to the Q&A. And while we're waiting for some questions to come in, we have some questions that have come up through the panel. And of course, I encourage everyone, Eliza, Jake, Brian, please unmute yourself and let's just jump in and have a good conversation. One thing that I'd love to ask of all of you is, this has come up a lot this year where, there is kind of a natural tendency for people to just say whatever is on their mind on social media. And so as you've been messaging these messages of health and safety, I'm sure sometimes you'll get some negative commentary. How do you handle negative chatter on your social channels?
We engage with them and we try to have a logical debate with them in the comments. I'm totally kidding.
I was nodding my head going, wow.
That's what I was like, Amrita's really good at playing the game. Yeah, I mean, a lot of it, if it's getting out of control and it's just ridiculous, I mean, we do have to stay on top of that stuff, hide, a lot of that depending on the network for sure. It's kind of life and death a little bit, that we are masked up, honestly, in order to keep things moving forward. So trying to keep that on the forefront is really important.
Sure.
Yeah, I'll give a shout out to my social manager. Man, got to have some thick skin these days, because not only we had COVID, then we had the justice movement, and we had wildfires here. So everybody's got something to say, and I think I admire her ability to just kind of stay true to the brand and not engage, like not get in the weeds with that kind of stuff, and really just show the authentic. That's all anybody's trying to do anyway, but like just sticking to that, even though like there's all these detractors that could kind of get you sideways.
Yeah, I feel like this year more than ever, I think the value of social media teams has really been brought to the forefront, and I think that they're on the front lines doing things that are so difficult, and I really applaud people who's just been able to manage through that, and I hope they're finding ways to decompress when they're not doing their jobs. Jake, how about you? You were saying that there's sort of different sentiments around masks. Any tips on what to do when someone's saying something really negative?
I mean, I've been really liberal with the hiding of comments, probably more so than I've ever been. But to some degree, I just let people vent. If it's not too out of line, I'm not going to try to really mix it up with them too much. So yeah, we had some pushback on the contest a couple times. You would get the comments like, "Oh, this is stupid," or whatever they are. And for the most part, I just would kind of brush those aside and sort of keep on trucking, because as an organization, we knew that messaging the mass was the right thing to do, and it was the law of the land as well. So just kind of let them vent, and most of the time they don't move on. I think I gave one person the complete ban during that stretch. That felt pretty good.
Yeah, Amrita, I think you're totally right. I mean, this put social media managers in a new light in a lot of organizations, for sure, because they were like the one people that could do something. We could pivot, we could move really quick, we could develop landing pages, COVID resources. We actually became super valuable within our communities. I don't know. In a way, it was a really good thing for they finally get their due a little bit about look what we can do. I thought that was fascinating.
Yeah, I agree with you. We have customers who, they're our power users, and their bosses are asking them every day to share, like, how many visuals are coming in, or like, what's the commentary? And, these are people who may not have gotten that sort of recognition before. So I do think that it's a bit of a reckoning for digital in general and social in particular. And I think the speed is definitely one aspect of it. And then just the ability to control also. You can't control the response, but you can control very quickly the message that you put out, and you can change it super quickly too, which is super useful right now versus things that, even though we all love print, you schedule something that's print or broadcast, it's so much harder to make changes in the moment, and things have been changing every week or sometimes even every day, it feels like.
Yeah, we've really seen this whole crisis kind of just push progress towards digital in a huge way. Budget is starting to shift quite a bit because they're seeing the versatility of that. I do want to ask Eliza one question, for shooting this video content, and I do encourage everybody to go check out that recreation video, the how to COVID in a recreation around Aspen video. I shared the link in the chat. It is remarkable. I was floored the first time I saw that. Honestly, I was like, holy crap, this is telling me exactly what the visitor experience is going to be. I feel safe. I feel better. But talk a little bit about what kinds of things did you do to make these shoots happen? Because that had to be, immensely. Video shoots are already complicated, So how did COVID change that, and how'd you get it done?
Well, so a lot of our different stakeholders in different sectors were pretty involved with public health in kind of leading public health to the guidelines almost. So rafting season was getting ready to roll, but they didn't really have official guidelines yet. So the rafting companies were pretty instrumental in working with the state level and then kind of adapting that for our county and kind of almost pushing it back up to public health. So public health could be like, yeah, all looks good, go do it. And so because of that chamber piece, we were working with them as the stakeholders to kind of be able to reopen. And then, we wanted to be able, so they were ready to go almost before public health was saying yes, because they knew what the guidelines were going to be at the state level. So some of the companies were like just incredibly nimble to work with us. Like we got the videographer out there, and it helped them just as much, really, because it was showing the guest what to expect when you did book fly fishing or rafting or hiking. So, and now we've gotten a little bit back into the weeds with COVID, right? People have this anger, but if we remember back to the good old days we're coming out of quarantine and everybody was kind of like helping and uplifting everybody else. So there was definitely that kind of like, let's do this positive attitude, which was great. And just to comment on that earlier kind of social conversation, at least for Aspen, when quarantine started, before we knew we could like reopen hotels and stuff to our guests, social was all we had, like the organic. So that was the only resource we had to kind of engage the visitor and kind of keep that dream of travel alive. So again, just reiterating what you guys said, like those social managers, man, have been in the weeds this year.
We really have, yeah. Just a follow-up question from Brian for you, Eliza, around the videos that you're making. Have you had a chance to, I think both you and Brian were just talking about also going into your B-roll and looking at what might already exist. Have any of the three of you been able to repurpose video footage that you had shot before and somehow still make it work? Or has that been challenging?
We had a little bit that we could use, but we were in the same situation as Jake, that our town had a mask law before the state. And then there was like this point that we didn't have masks outside. So we had B-roll that we could use for like social distancing outside and B-roll just to like be people experiencing the outdoors. So that's what we had been able to use, but definitely nothing obviously pre-mask.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we were very much in the same boat. Like I mentioned earlier, Allie, our creative specialist, was been digging through our B-roll a lot to see what we can and can't use. And Brian, thanks for bringing up those Notre Dame crowd shots that we're not going to see anytime soon. It's really depressing. But we had to throw a lot of that stuff out because in our basic 30-second sizzle reel, Notre Dame's a huge part of that, and football season's super different and all of that. But so we've been able to repurpose some, mostly the outdoors stuff, which I think everyone kind of leaned into. But it's kept us thinking too. We just had a meeting today about our visitor's guide. We have to continue getting mask assets as we move here because it's not going anywhere. We want to continue to promote different things. So when certain attractions or things change as the seasons move on, we need to make sure if it's ice skating that we get people out there in their mask ice skating because we don't have that from last year. So we're continuing to think about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, one question that I know is on everyone's mind is how are you all thinking about planning for holiday season promotion? Eliza, you've got ski season coming up. How are you thinking about it? Are you already planning? Are you leaving some things to be more last minute depending on how things go?
So we typically actually promote spring, summer, fall, and then the Aspen Skiing Company takes the lead on winter marketing. This year, our strategy really, because we are anticipating increased demand on outdoor rec, even in winter, is kind of continuing with that how-to campaign, both from the COVID side, but also from like best practices and etiquette with like cross-country skiing and up here, out here, you can do uphilling, so you can hike up the mountain with skins on the bottom of your skis during off-peak. So kind of educating people about that and really making sure, backcountry skiing is available here, but there is a, steep entry learning curve and it should not be entered into lightly. So really coming at it from an education standpoint, and that's what our kind of role will be in promoting content this winter. And then, like I mentioned, we'll pivot that outdoor recreation version to a winter version of a video, and some of the restaurants will be doing kind of outdoor seating in winter, so kind of just showing what that looks like again.
Mm-hmm. Jake, what about you?
Yeah, we're just getting into some winter stuff now. We have a really cool ice skating trail in South Bend that's getting ready to open here in about a month. Really a great attraction in the Midwest, and they just came out today with their plans and coronavirus guidelines. So we're going to be working with that. And then we're going to, I think, do some home for the holidays type of stuff as we get in to the holiday season. But without the benefit of some great snowy peaks, we're at the mercy of Mother Nature on terms of snow. So we're just going to kind of have to wait and see. Our marketing planning has really shrunk. I mean, if we're planning a month out now, we feel kind of lucky because it's hard to know what'll be open, what'll be closed, what'll be available, especially when you're doing weather dependent things. So we'll get there eventually, but for now, we're just kind of trying to sketch out a framework and see what we actually have to work with when the time comes.
Mm-hmm. Brian, how about the clients that you're working with? What kind of advice are you giving them about holiday planning?
Yeah, I mean, we're ready to be very malleable with our plans. I think that's the best way to look at it. Honestly, I'm a little tired of rewriting ad plans at this point. Some of these things, man, earlier in the year, we did them over and over and over again as each chapter of this whole saga kind of unraveled. So, I think it comes down to those who are in the marketplace right now. So we're really encouraging people to be in the marketplace. Don't sit back and wait for 2021, because 2021 is no guarantee that it's going to be any damn better. And those who are kind of top of mind and in the feed and showcasing things like Aspen and like South Bend has done, I think they're going to be top of the list for possible visitation. It just breaks my heart for some of the people that I've talked to. I mentioned this earlier, the ones who've gone dark or just kind of play the wait and see game. The opportunities are there. And quite honestly, with our ad results lately for our campaigns, we're seeing record, cost per clicks and record click-throughs. And, advertising is not nearly as competitive as I thought it was going to be. Like, in April, March, March, April, kind of going towards June, where we thought things were going to loosen up. I thought this was going to be an insanely competitive period that we were headed into. I was expecting $2 cost per clicks because everybody was going for outdoor recreation. That's all people had. So I was like, okay, so every destination in every state is going to be promoting outdoor recreation. This is just going to be crazy. But the ones who stayed the course and just stayed active are really reaping the benefits of it. We're seeing dollars go a long way right now. I just say, get into it if you have the means, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great advice. So we're just getting ready to wrap up. We're almost at the top of the hour, and I was just trying to think about how would I sum up all of the great stuff we've learned in just a couple of points. So I would say, number one, of course, we've learned or sort of been reinforced this whole message around why visuals are so important as a way to get your message out. And I think whether your message was what it was before COVID, which was really about coming and visiting, or if it's around just like helping to build that sense of trust and safety, visuals really, whether it's video or photography, really great tools to use. Another thing that I've been hearing from all of you is also to really lean in on cross-promoting these visuals. I know, Brian, this is something you talk a lot about at 26 Digital, but, seeing what you did, Jake, with earned media, seeing, Eliza, how you're working with your local partners, I think it's really important to make sure that as a destination, you're really going that extra mile to take all of this good work you're doing and making sure that other people are helping you spread the word. Being agile, making sure that you're rethinking how your teams work. So, we get questions sometimes how we do our content planning. We're probably going to run a webinar on that too, but you got to change the way you're working and not think that you're going to have these 3-6 month long plans that are going to be set in stone. And the final thought, which to me is the one that is really reminding me of why I love being in tourism, is that I think as destination marketers, you are all amazing storytellers. Like looking at the video and the visuals that you were showing across all three of you, I think DMOs have a really unique role to play, that they can take all of this very dry, sometimes scary or controversial information and still come back to the heart of why do people want to travel? Why do they want to explore a destination? And so I think still leaning into your strength as a storyteller, as a destination. No one else in your community can really do that for you and do it in a way that appeals to both locals and visitors. So just wanted to say thanks to all three of you for joining us. Thank you to Becca and Will at ETS for organizing a great month of webinars and sessions. And this one was certainly really enjoyable to participate in. And again, I think they've been tweeting a little bit. So if you've got any follow-up questions, please go ahead and connect with Jake, Eliza, and Brian directly through Twitter. They're all active. You'll know how to find them. And hope everyone has a great day. We'll see you probably at 3 o'clock for the Flashback Friday. And thanks again. Have a great afternoon.